Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cosmic Currents. Today we're talking about one of the most nurturing and, let's be honest, one of the most complex signs of the zodiac, Cancer. We're diving deep into the heart of Cancerian caretaking and asking the big question: where is the line between unconditional love and subtle emotional manipulation? Have you ever had someone in your life who takes such incredible care of you, who anticipates your every need, but sometimes it feels a little tight, a little conditional? Like their comfort depends entirely on your acceptance of their care? That's the paradox we're unpacking today. Before we dive into the stars, if you're finding these insights helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps this energy reach more people who need it, and I'd love to build our community's energy. So drop a comment below and tell me a question you're asking the universe right now. Alright, find a comfortable spot and let's align our energy with the cosmos. To truly understand the Cancerian spirit, you have to start with its symbol, the crab. Just picture it for a moment. This creature carries its home, its protection, on its back. It has a hard, calcified exterior that shields a very soft, very vulnerable body inside. This isn't just a cute mascot, it's the entire operating manual for the Cancer consciousness. Everything, and I mean everything, that we're going to talk about today, the beautiful, the challenging, the divine, and the difficult all comes back to this one core principle: the absolute, non-negotiable need for a safe shell. Without that sense of emotional and physical security, the Cancerian soul feels as exposed as a crab without its home, vulnerable to every predator and every crashing wave of the world. This profound need is governed by Cancer's planetary ruler, the moon. While the sun in your chart represents your core identity, your ego, the moon represents your inner world, your emotions, your subconscious, your past, and your concept of mothering and being mothered. The moon doesn't shine with its own light. It reflects the light of the sun. In the same way, Cancer often understands itself through its reflection in others, through its emotional connections. And just like the moon, which cycles through its phases from new to full and back again, the Cancerian emotional state is in constant flux. Their energy ebbs and flows like the tides. One day they can feel open, radiant, and full, wanting to illuminate everyone with their love. The next, they might retreat into a dark moon phase, needing solitude, quiet, and a space to process the immense amount of emotional data they absorb from the world. This is why the concept of home is so central to this sign. But when we say home, we aren't just talking about four walls and a roof. For Cancer, home is a feeling. It's a frequency of safety. It can be a person, a beloved pet, a collection of old photographs, a specific scent that reminds them of childhood. It's anywhere and anything that allows them to take off that heavy outer shell and just be in their soft, vulnerable truth. Their life's work, often happening on a very subconscious level, is the creation and fierce protection of this sacred space. They are the architects of belonging. They will build a fortress of comfort, brick by brick, with memories, shared meals, inside jokes, and unwavering loyalty. Think about someone you know with strong Cancer placements in their chart. Perhaps a sun, moon, or rising sign in Cancer. Maybe it's your friend whose apartment is the go-to spot for your whole group. It's not because it's the biggest or the fanciest, but because it feels like a collective exhale. The moment you walk in, there's a blanket on the couch, the lighting is soft, and they're already asking if you've eaten. They remember that you love a specific kind of tea and have it ready. This isn't just simple hospitality, it's a sacred act. They are extending their own energetic shell to include you, to offer you refuge from the harshness of the world. In that space, you are safe, you are seen, and you are nourished. This is the divine expression of Cancerian energy, the embodiment of the great mother who provides, without question. This drive is the source of their incredible power. It's what makes them the most tenaciously loving and protective people you will ever meet. If they consider you family, and family is defined by heart, not blood, they will defend you with the ferocity of a mother bear. They will hold your secrets, tend to your wounds, and remember your triumphs, long after you've forgotten them yourself. But this is where the paradox begins to surface, because this very same instinct, this primal need to create a secure attachment, is also the source of their deepest shadow. What happens when they feel that security is threatened? What happens when the person they've brought into their shell wants to leave or change or grow in a way that feels unfamiliar? The drive to protect can begin to curdle into a desire to control. The instinct to nurture can become a tool to create dependency. The walls of the sanctuary can begin to feel like the walls of a cage. The crab's claws, meant for self-defense, can begin to pinch and hold on too tightly, not out of malice, but out of a terrifying fear of loss and abandonment. So as we begin this journey, hold that image of the crab in your mind. The hard shell, the soft interior, and the ever-present claws. It is the key to understanding why the highest expression of love and the most painful forms of emotional manipulation can, for this sign, grow from the very same root. Before we move deeper, I want you to take a gentle breath and ask yourself this: Where in your own life do you build a shell for your emotional safety? And what does that shell look like? Is it a physical place, a specific person, or a certain routine? That shell you've identified, that sacred space of safety, is so crucial because of what it protects. If the Cancerian operating system is the hard shell, the software running inside is a vast, deep, and ever-changing ocean of emotion. We're not just talking about being a little sensitive or moody. You have to understand that for a soul with strong Cancerian energy, their emotional body is their primary organ of perception. You might navigate the world through logic, through your five senses, through analysis. But Cancer navigates the world by feeling it. They are a cardinal water sign. The cardinal signs arise: Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, the initiators of the zodiac. Cancer initiates from a place of pure emotion. An idea doesn't start in their head. It starts as a swell in their heart, a gut feeling, an intuitive knowing that something must be done to either protect, nurture, or create a deeper sense of connection. Their inner world is not a calm, placid lake. It's the great mysterious ocean. It has powerful tides that correspond to the phases of the moon, creating those famous Cancerian mood shifts that can seem so baffling to more emotionally steady signs. It has immense depths where old memories, ancestral patterns, and subconscious fears reside like creatures of the deep. And it has a surface that can be sparkling and serene one moment and a raging tempest the next, churned up by a passing comment or a perceived threat to their security. To love a Cancer is to learn how to sail on this ocean, to respect its power, and to know when to anchor and when to ride the waves. Because their primary interface with reality is emotional, they are incredibly porous. They are psychic and emotional sponges, absorbing the energetic residue of every person and every place they encounter. This is the root of their profound, almost magical empathy. They don't just sympathize with your pain, they can literally feel it in their own bodies. They absorb your anxiety, your unspoken grief, your quiet joy. It's why they often seem to know what you need before you do. They aren't reading your mind, they're reading your energy field. Let's imagine a real-world scenario. A Cancer individual walks into a room where their two roommates just had a silent, passive-aggressive standoff about the dishes. Nothing was said aloud, but the air is thick with resentment. An air sign like Gemini might not notice a thing, busy thinking about their next project. An earth sign like Virgo might just notice the dishes are still in the sink and get annoyed. But the Cancer walks in and feels an immediate drop in the emotional temperature. It's like a cold front has moved in. They feel the tension in their own solar plexus. Their mood, which might have been light and happy a moment before, suddenly becomes heavy and anxious. They don't know the specifics of what happened, but they know the feeling of safety in their home has been compromised. Their immediate instinct is to restore emotional equilibrium. So, they might start tidying up, putting on some calming music, or trying to make a gentle joke to break the tension. They might ask, in that soft, indirect Cancerian way, "Is everything okay in here?" The energy feels a little weird. They are acting as the emotional barometer of the space, and their deep-seated need for a harmonious home drives them to try and fix the emotional weather. This is their gift, but it's also an immense burden. Living with this level of emotional porosity means they constantly have to process not only their own feelings, but the feelings of everyone around them. This is why their shell, their home, their alone time is not a luxury. It's a vital necessity. It's the only place they can go to wring out the sponge to figure out which of these feelings actually belong to them and which they picked up from the collective. When they don't get this time, they become waterlogged. An emotionally overwhelmed Cancer can be crabby, defensive, and retreat into their shell, refusing to come out. It's not because they want to punish you. It's because they have reached their saturation point and literally cannot absorb one more drop of emotional information. This way of being can also feel incredibly invalidating in a world that often prioritizes hard facts and linear logic over intuitive feeling. A Cancer might get a bad feeling about a new business partner or a new situation, and they might not be able to articulate precisely why. They can't produce a spreadsheet of evidence. All they can say is, "My gut tells me this is wrong." To people who don't operate this way, this can sound flaky or irrational. But for Cancer, that gut feeling is more real and more reliable than any external data. When that intuition is dismissed, they learn to stop trusting it. Or worse, they learn that their primary mode of perception is not valued, which can create deep wounds around their own self-worth. It teaches them that to be safe, they must keep their true feelings hidden away, deep in the waters, further strengthening the need for that protective outer shell. This emotional ocean is the wellspring of their legendary nurturing, but it's also the source of their deepest fears, and we'll soon see how they use those waters to both heal and, at times, to manipulate. As we sit with this idea of an inner ocean, take a moment for yourself. Think of a time you acted on a gut feeling rather than logic. How does it feel in your body when your intuition speaks to you? And do you trust that voice? when that vast intuitive ocean of emotion we just spoke of finds its outward expression, it manifests as one of the most powerful forces in human experience, the mother archetype. Now, it is absolutely crucial that we separate this concept from gender and from the act of literal mothering. The Great Mother is a universal archetype, a primal energy pattern that exists within the collective consciousness of humanity. It is genderless. It lives in men, women, and non-binary people. It is the force that nourishes, protects, and sustains life. Think of phrases like Mother Earth, Mother Nature, the motherland. This is the energy that provides the foundational safety and sustenance required for anything to grow. Cancer, as the cardinal water sign ruled by the moon, is the primary keeper of this archetypal flame in the zodiac. At their best, they are a pure channel for this divine, life-giving force. This is the source of the purest form of Cancerian care. It is love given not as a transaction, but as a life-sustaining element, as natural and as necessary as water or sunlight. The primary language of this archetype is nourishment. This is why so many Cancers express their love through food. When a Cancer asks, "Are you hungry?" or "Have you eaten?" they are not just asking about your physical state. They are asking, "Is your soul being nourished? Are you feeling depleted? Are you safe? Let me provide for you. Let me restore you." The act of cooking for someone, of sharing a meal, is a sacred ritual for them. It is a transference of their love and life force energy into something that you can physically take into your body to sustain you. Accepting a meal from a Cancer is accepting their love in its most tangible form. The second language of this archetype is protection. This is the fierce, formidable side of the nurturing instinct. This is the mama bear who will rise up with terrifying strength to defend her cubs from any perceived threat. Once a Cancer has accepted you into their clan, their family, which again is defined by emotional bonds, not by blood, their loyalty is absolute. They will stand between you and the world. They become your fiercest advocate, your softest landing place. This protective instinct is not aggressive in the way of a fire sign like Aries. It's defensive. They are not looking for a fight. But if a fight finds someone they love, they will end it. They build a fortress of their love around you, creating a sanctuary where you feel completely and utterly safe. Think of the dad friend in a group, the one who is maybe a Cancer moon or has other strong Cancer placements. He might be the quietest one, but he's the one who is silently tracking everyone throughout the night. He makes sure no one is left behind, that everyone has a safe ride home. If someone is feeling sick or overwhelmed, he's the one who will step away from the party to sit with them, get them a glass of water, and just offer a steady, non-judgmental presence. The next day, he'll be the one to send a text, "Hey, hope you're feeling better," and show up with soup. He's not doing this for applause or recognition. It is a deep, cellular-level instinct to care for his tribe, to maintain the well-being and cohesion of his chosen family. This is the mother archetype in action, expressing itself as quiet, reliable, unconditional support. At its core, the love of the Great Mother is unconditional. It's a love that says, "You do not have to perform for me. You do not have to achieve anything to earn my affection. You are worthy of love and safety simply because you exist." This is perhaps the most profound and healing gift that a healthy Cancerian energy can offer to the world. In a society that is so often conditional, so focused on productivity and perfection, the Cancerian sanctuary is a place where you can be your messy, imperfect, vulnerable self and know that you will not be abandoned. You can fall apart and they will be there to help you gather the pieces, offering not solutions but presence. They create a space where your soul can finally exhale. This is the divine potential that lives within every person who carries this energy. It is the ability to become a source of life and healing for others. However, every great archetypal light casts an equally great shadow. What happens when the Great Mother becomes the devouring mother? What happens when the need to nurture is corrupted by a deeper, unhealed need to be needed? The love that nourishes can begin to smother. The desire to protect can curdle into a refusal to let go. The unconditional acceptance becomes conditional on you staying close, on you remaining dependent. The lines of the sanctuary begin to feel less like a safe harbor and more like the bars of a gilded cage. The mother who gives life can, in her shadow form, prevent a life from being fully lived. This is the precipice on which Cancerian energy constantly stands, the razor's edge between selfless love and selfish need. So, as you reflect on this powerful archetype, consider its presence within you. I want you to ask yourself, in what ways do you mother yourself? When you are feeling vulnerable or unwell, what are the specific acts of care you perform to create a sense of safety and nourishment for your own inner being? That instinct to mother, to nourish and protect, is powered by a very specific and potent kind of spiritual technology. It's Cancer's signature gift, their superpower, intuitive empathy. This is something we really need to unpack, because it's a term that gets used a lot. But the Cancerian version of it is unique. This is not the same as sympathy, which is feeling sorry for someone. It's not even the same as cognitive empathy, which is the ability to logically understand someone's perspective and why they might feel a certain way. Cancer's empathy is a deeply somatic and psychic experience. It is the ability to literally feel what another person is feeling as if it were their own emotion inside their own body. They don't just understand your sadness, they experience the frequency of your sadness in their own heart. Remember how we talked about them being emotional sponges, their inner world an ocean that registers every subtle shift in the environment? This is that principle in action. They are like walking tuning forks, and when they come into your presence, their energetic body involuntarily begins to resonate at the same frequency as yours. They can't help it. It's not a skill they learned, it's the way they are built. This is why being around highly anxious or angry people can be so draining for them as to be physically painful. They are not just observing the anger, they are absorbing it, and their own system has to process it. Conversely, being around joyful, loving people can feel incredibly uplifting and rejuvenating for them. Their well-being is intrinsically linked to the emotional health of their environment and the people in it. The true beauty of this gift, when it is expressed consciously, is that it allows them to connect with you beyond the superficial layer of words. You can be saying, "I'm fine, everything's okay," but if your heart is breaking, a Cancer will feel the dissonance. They will hear your words, but they will feel your truth. And because they can feel the truth of your emotional state, they instinctively know what is needed to bring comfort. Let's imagine you're at work. You receive some difficult personal news that morning, but you have a big presentation, so you've had to put on a brave face, compartmentalize your feelings, and power through the day. You're smiling, you're engaging with colleagues, you're hitting all your talking points. To most people, you just seem a little quiet perhaps, but your Cancerian coworker, the one who always has a stash of snacks in their drawer to share, keeps glancing over at you. They aren't staring, but you can feel their gentle attention. They feel the heavy, grieving energy that's clinging to you, despite your professional performance. They feel the effort it's taking you to hold it all together. A less sensitive person might come over and say, "Hey, you seem really down, what's wrong?" Which would put you on the spot and force you to either lie or break down completely. But the evolved Cancer knows this. So, later in the afternoon, you come back to your desk and there's a cup of your favorite tea waiting for you. A few minutes later, a simple text message comes through from them that says, "Thinking of you today." No need to reply. That is the magic of intuitive empathy. The action was born from a direct feeling of your pain. It bypassed the need for explanation or confession. It didn't demand anything from you in your depleted state, not a conversation, not even a thank you. It was a quiet, unobtrusive offering of support that perfectly met your unstated need. It said, "I see you, I feel you, you are not alone." In that moment, you feel a profound sense of relief, of being truly seen in a way that is incredibly healing. This is Cancerian caretaking at its most pure. It is an act of service that flows directly from the heart, guided by an intuition that is attuned to the subtle symphony of human emotion. This is what makes them such incredible friends, partners, and healers. They create a safe space for your heart. You feel like you don't have to perform for them. You don't have to have it all figured out. You can just be in your emotional truth, whatever that is, and they will be able to sit with you in it without judgment, because they can feel it too. This ability to anticipate needs can seem almost clairvoyant. They will offer you a blanket just as you start to feel a chill. They will suggest a quiet night in when they sense your social battery is dying, even if you haven't admitted it to yourself. This isn't mind reading, it's energy reading. However, like all great powers, this one has a shadow side that we need to be aware of. The line between feeling what you need and assuming you know what's best for you can be perilously thin. The gift of intuition, when clouded by their own fears and insecurities, can become a tool for control. The thought process can subtly shift from, "I feel that you're in pain. Let me offer comfort," to, "I feel that you're in pain, and I know exactly what you should do to fix it, and you must do it because your pain is making me uncomfortable." The impulse to soothe can become an impulse to manage, and this is where the dynamic can begin to tip from nurturing into manipulation, a topic we will be exploring much more deeply. For now, just rest in the beauty of this gift. Think about how it feels to be truly seen by another person, and consider this for your own life. When you are with someone who is upset, is your first instinct to offer advice and solutions, or to simply sit with them in their feeling and offer your quiet presence? What does each approach feel like to you? That incredible intuitive empathy we just explored needs a place to land. It needs a container. And so, the Cancerian soul becomes the master architect of the sacred nest. This is the tangible, physical manifestation of their inner world. If their body is their shell, and their home is an extension of that shell, then the nest is the soft, warm, carefully woven lining inside. It is where their caretaking instinct takes physical form. A Cancer's home is rarely just a collection of furniture and possessions. It is a living, breathing, energetic vessel designed with one primary purpose: to create a feeling of absolute safety and comfort. It is their sanctuary, their temple, and their greatest work of art. When you walk into the home of a person with strong Cancer energy, you'll often notice a shift in the atmosphere first. It's not something you see, but something you feel in your nervous system. The outside world, with all its noise, its demands, its harsh edges, seems to melt away at the door. They are masters of creating a womb-like environment. They understand the subtle language of the senses and how they speak directly to the soul. The lighting will be soft and warm, not harsh and fluorescent. There will likely be a comforting scent in the air. Whether from a simmering pot on the stove, a particular candle, or fresh flowers, there will be an abundance of soft textures, plush blankets, comfortable cushions, a worn-in rug. These aren't just decorative choices. They are deliberate, energetic placements designed to soothe and ground anyone who enters. Imagine you're going through a terrible breakup or a crisis at work. You feel raw, exposed, and utterly depleted. You call your Cancer friend and they simply say, "Come over." When you arrive at their door, a mess of frayed nerves. They don't immediately start grilling you for details. The first act of care is the environment itself. They open the door and the warmth of their home envelops you. They guide you to the most comfortable spot on the sofa, the one they know has the perfect balance of softness and support, and before you can even begin your story, they've placed a warm, heavy mug in your hands. It's not just any mug, it's one that feels good to hold. They might put on a playlist of soft instrumental music, wordlessly understanding that you don't have the capacity for complex lyrics right now. The space itself is doing the healing work. It is communicating to your primal brain, you are safe here. You can let your guard down. You can fall apart. This nest will hold you. Only after your breathing has deepened and your shoulders have dropped do they gently ask, "Do you want to talk about it?" This nesting instinct is so powerful because, for Cancer, their home is a direct reflection of their emotional state. A chaotic, messy home often signifies a chaotic, messy inner world. An argument that happens in the living room feels like a violation of their own body. They feel a deep, instinctual need to maintain harmony and order in their space, because it's the only way they can regulate their own porous emotional system. Tidying, cleaning, and arranging their space. What they often call puttering is a form of moving meditation for them. It's how they process their feelings and restore their own sense of inner peace. And they extend this gift to you. When they are creating this nest, they are thinking of their loved ones. They will buy a certain type of coffee because they know you love it. They will keep your favorite blanket washed and ready on the couch. They are constantly, intuitively curating the space to be a refuge not just for themselves, but for their chosen family. To be invited into a Cancer's home is a profound honor. They are not just letting you into their physical space, they are letting you into the most vulnerable part of their heart. They are offering you a place in their nest, a place to be incubated, healed, and restored. This is the mother archetype, building a literal womb, a safe place where life can be protected and nourished. This is the light side of the nesting instinct, and it is a beautiful, life-affirming gift to the world. But here again, we must look at the potential shadow. What happens when the nest, designed to be a sanctuary, becomes a fortress? What happens when the desire to create a safe, harmonious environment becomes a rigid need to control that environment? The fear of disruption can become so great that they resist any change. They might be hesitant to have new people over as unfamiliar energy can feel invasive. They might get deeply upset if you move a piece of furniture because it disrupts the carefully calibrated energetic balance. The nest that was meant to nurture growth can inadvertently stifle it by becoming too insular, too resistant to the natural sciences of life. The need to protect the inhabitants of the nest can subtly transform into a need to keep them there, safe and sound, where their comings and goings can be monitored and their environment can be managed. The open door of the sanctuary can begin to feel like it only swings one way. Take a moment to connect with your own space. Look around you. What are 3 elements in your own living space that bring you an immediate sense of peace or comfort? What is the story or feeling attached to them? The sacred nest, with its sensory comforts and atmosphere of safety, is the physical stage upon which a deeper magic unfolds. True Cancerian caretaking goes far beyond providing a good meal or a comfortable place to rest. At its highest expression, it offers a profound and essential nourishment of the soul. This is the element that transforms their care from merely pleasant to genuinely healing. They have an innate understanding that a human being needs more than food and shelter to thrive. We need to have our hearts, our memories, and our spirits fed as well. This is what creates that deep feeling of emotional satiety, the sense of being so full of love and belonging that you can weather any storm. One of the primary ways they nourish the soul is with their presence. In a world of constant distraction, where everyone is half listening while scrolling on their phone, the focused, undivided attention of a Cancer is a radical act of love. When you are sharing something vulnerable with them, they are there. You can feel them listening with their whole being. They aren't just hearing your words. Their intuitive empathy is absorbing the emotions beneath the words, the hesitation, the fear, the flicker of hope. They make eye contact. They lean in. They create a powerful container of attention that says, what you are feeling matters. You matter. This quality of deep, compassionate listening is one of the most nourishing gifts one person can give another. It validates your experience and affirms your existence, feeding that deep human need to be seen and heard. They also nourish the soul through the act of remembrance. As we will explore more deeply soon, Cancer has an extraordinary connection to the past. Their memory is not a filing cabinet of facts. It's a living library of feelings. And they don't just remember their own past. They become the devoted archivists of yours. They remember the story you told them 5 years ago about your childhood dog. They remember the secret dream you whispered to them late one night. They remember your past triumphs, especially the ones you've forgotten in moments of self-doubt. Let's say you have a terrifying, career-defining job interview. You're riddled with anxiety and imposter syndrome. A healthy Cancer partner or friend won't just offer a shallow good luck. You'll be great. Their care is far more intricate. The night before, they might cook you a specific meal from your childhood. One they know you associate with feeling safe and brave. As you get ready in the morning, they won't add to your stress with last-minute advice. Instead, they will nourish your spirit. They might look you in the eyes and say, remember when you had to give that speech at your sister's wedding? You were so nervous, but you spoke from the heart and everyone was moved. You have that same strength and sincerity in you today. I can see it. In this moment, they are not just cheering you on. They are reaching into your own history, retrieving a memory of your power and feeding it back to you. They are reminding you of the person you are when you're at your best. This is soul nourishment. It's a transference of belief, a reinforcement of your own spirit that strengthens you from the inside out. Furthermore, they nourish with tradition and ritual. Cancers understand on a cellular level that rituals create the rhythm of life, the steady heartbeat that makes us feel secure. They are the ones who will insist on upholding family traditions, not out of rigid obligation, but because they know these repeated acts of connection weave the fabric of belonging. This could be as simple as the quiet ritual of bringing their partner a cup of coffee in bed every morning, or as significant as meticulously recreating a holiday recipe passed down from a grandparent. These rituals become anchors in the chaotic sea of life. They create a sense of continuity, a story that you are a part of. This predictable rhythm of care nourishes the soul's deep need for stability and a sense of place in the world. This is the essence of that unconditional mother archetype love. It feeds your core being, not your ego. It's not about flattery or praise for your accomplishments. It's about providing the fundamental emotional and spiritual nutrients that allow your unique soul to flourish. It's a love that says, I see all of you, the past you, the present you, and the potential you, and I will tend to the flame of your spirit. But this is where the light casts its longest shadow. This soul-level nourishment is so powerful, so deeply satisfying, that it can become addictive for the person receiving it. And the Cancer, who feels most secure when they are needed, can become addicted to being the sole provider of this nourishment. The healthy act of feeding your soul can subtly devolve into a strategy for creating dependency, ensuring that you will never leave, because who could possibly leave the person who feeds their very soul? Before we wade into those more complex waters, take a moment to connect with this feeling of deep nourishment. Beyond food and physical comfort, what is one thing someone has done for you that made you feel truly nourished on a soul level? What was it about their action that touched you so deeply? The ability to provide that deep, soul-level nourishment is fueled by Cancer's most defining and often misunderstood characteristic, their profound connection to the past. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon governs not only our emotions but also our subconscious and our memories. For a Cancerian soul, the past is not a foreign country, it is their native land. It is not a collection of sealed-off chapters but a living, breathing landscape that they inhabit every single day. The currents of yesterday flow directly into the ocean of their present moment. This is why they are often labeled as nostalgic, but that word is too simple. It's not just a wistful longing, it's a fundamental way of orienting themselves in time and space. You have to understand that a Cancer's memory operates on an entirely different system than that of, say, an air or earth sign. Theirs is not a memory of facts, figures, and timelines. It is a memory of feelings. They might forget the exact date an event happened or the specific words that were said, but they will never, ever forget how that event felt. They can recall the emotional resonance of a moment from 20 years ago with startling, visceral clarity. They can re-inhabit the feeling of joy from a childhood birthday, the sting of a betrayal from a first love, or the overwhelming sense of peace from a quiet afternoon with a grandparent. These emotional imprints are the cornerstones upon which they build their entire identity and their sense of security. In its highest expression, This gift makes them the sacred keepers of memory. They are the historians of the family, the archivists of the friend group. They are the ones who hold the stories, the inside jokes, the shared histories that weave a collection of individuals into a tribe. They create a sense of continuity and belonging by constantly reminding us of where we've come from. They are the glue that binds people together across time. Imagine a couple celebrating a wedding anniversary. One partner might see it as a lovely milestone, a day to celebrate their current love. The Cancer partner, however, experiences the day as a grand symphony of every moment that has led them to this point. For weeks leading up to it, they have been swimming in the emotional memories of the relationship. On the day of the anniversary, their celebration is an act of sacred remembrance. They won't just give a gift. They will recreate the first meal they ever cooked together. They will make a playlist of songs from the year they met. They will pull out old photo albums and spend hours telling stories that begin with, "Do you remember when?" For them, the joy of the present moment is magnified 1,000 times by layering it with the richness of its history. They are weaving the past into the present to sanctify it, to reinforce the reality and the strength of the bond. They are showing you that your connection is not a fleeting thing. It has roots, it has history, it is a fortress built of shared experience. This is why they cherish sentimental objects. That box of old letters, the worn-out t-shirt from college, the ticket stub from a first date, these are not just clutter to them, they are sacred talismans. They are physical anchors for their most potent emotional memories. Holding that object is like pressing a button that allows them to be instantly flooded with the feeling of love, safety, or belonging associated with it. It's a way of drawing strength and comfort from the wellspring of their own past. When they share these stories and objects with you, they are inviting you into that sacred inner world. They are reinforcing your shared nest, reminding you of the strength of its walls. This is a profoundly beautiful aspect of their love. It gives relationships a depth and a soulfulness that is truly rare. But this is the pivot point. This is where we stand on the threshold between the light and the shadow. Because this same incredible, emotionally charged memory that can be used to build connection, to heal, and to nourish can also be used as a tool for control. Memory is subjective. And for Cancer, memory is feeling. Their version of what happened is inextricably linked to how it made them feel. And if their feelings are hurt, their memory of the event will be colored by that pain. The keeper of shared history can subtly become the sole arbiter of its official narrative. The phrase, "but that S, not how it happened," is often met with the unassailable Cancerian response. "But that S, how it made me feel." And in their emotional ocean, feeling is truth. This is where the power to create a shared reality can begin to twist into the power to manipulate it. As we prepare to explore that other side of the tide, let's honor the power of our own history. What is a memory from your own past that you return to when you need to feel a sense of strength or safety? What is the core feeling of that memory? We have spent this time together basking in the gentle, silvery light of the Cancerian moon, exploring the profound beauty of their capacity to love. We've honored their intuitive empathy, their sacred nests, their ability to nourish the very soul. And every bit of that is true and real. But the moon is not always full. It has its dark phases. And now, we must be courageous enough to turn our gaze to the other side of the tide, to the shadow that is cast by that same brilliant light. This is where we wade into the murky, complex waters of emotional manipulation. And the first and most important thing you must understand is this. The Cancerian shadow is almost never born from a place of conscious malice. It is not the calculated scheming of a villain. It is the desperate, panicked reaction of a deeply wounded heart. It is born directly from the distortion of their greatest gifts, when they are activated by their deepest fear, the primal, terrifying fear of abandonment. Remember the crab? For all of its nurturing, maternal energy, it is also a creature armed with powerful claws. These claws are tools of self-preservation. They are meant to defend the soft, vulnerable body from threats. In a healthy, secure Cancerian soul, these claws are rarely used. But when their sense of emotional security is threatened, when they perceive that a cherished connection is at risk of being severed, a primal survival instinct kicks in. The fear of being left, of having the nest emptied, of being emotionally abandoned, feels like a death threat to their sensitive system. And in that state of panic, the crab latches on, and it will not let go. The tragedy is that, in its desperation to hold on, it often crushes the very thing it is trying to save. Let's look at a classic, painful example. Imagine a young adult who has a wonderfully close relationship with their Cancer parent. This parent has been the epitome of the great mother, nurturing, supportive, their child's biggest cheerleader. The child then gets a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a scholarship to a university or a dream job in a city across the country. Logically, this is a moment for celebration. But for the Cancer parent, this news is subconsciously processed as a threat. It means the nest will be empty. It means their role as the primary daily nourisher and protector will be diminished. The fear of abandonment floods their system, and so the tide turns. The support begins to curdle into something else. Suddenly, the parent who always said you can do anything starts planting seeds of doubt. It begins subtly. "Oh, that city is so expensive, how will you ever manage?" Or, "I was reading about the crime rate there, it makes me so worried for you." The caretaking language is still there, but its intention has shifted from empowerment to control. If that doesn't work, it might escalate. They might start inducing guilt, saying things like, "Well, I was so looking forward to our Sunday dinners, but I guess that's over now. I'll just be here all alone." Or, in a more classic manifestation, they might suddenly develop a mysterious health problem, a recurring ailment that flares up whenever the child starts making concrete plans to leave. Their back will go out, they'll get terrible migraines, they'll feel a constant fatigue. They aren't faking the illness. Their emotional panic is genuinely manifesting in their physical body. It is a subconscious somatic strategy to make their child feel too guilty or too worried to leave. This parent doesn't wake up in the morning and think, "I'm going to sabotage my child's future." They are thinking, "I can't lose my child. I can't bear the thought of them being so far away. I need them here to feel safe." The fear is so overwhelming that it hijacks their nurturing instinct and twists it into a set of manipulative tactics designed to prevent loss. The love is still there, buried underneath the fear, but the expression of that love has become toxic. The sacred nest has become a cage lined with guilt and obligation. This is the foundational principle of all Cancerian manipulation. It is a survival strategy. When they feel their connection to you is threatened, their subconscious goal shifts from, "I want you to be happy too, I need to restore my own sense of security," and your happiness or freedom is secondary to that. The very tools that they use to love youth, their intuitive empathy, their deep knowledge of your emotional history, their ability to provide comfort, become the very weapons they use to control you. They know your triggers, they know your weak spots. They know exactly how to make you feel guilty or indebted or responsible for their emotional well-being. And because it's all cloaked in the language of love and care, it can be incredibly confusing and difficult to identify. It feels like love, but it leaves you feeling trapped, drained, and small. This is the turning of the tide. It's the moment when the life-giving waters become a whirlpool that pulls you under. Understanding that this comes from a place of fear doesn't excuse the behavior, but it is the essential first step in learning how to navigate it with compassion and, most importantly, with boundaries. As we begin this deeper dive, let's turn the mirror on ourselves for a moment. Think about your own deepest fear in relationships. When that fear gets triggered, how does your behavior change? Do you tend to fight, flee, or try to control the situation? When that deep, primal fear of abandonment is triggered, the Cancerian soul's primary objective becomes self-protection. And for the crab, protection means avoiding direct threats. Open, direct conflict feels like a battering ram against their sensitive shell. It's loud, it's unpredictable, and it carries the ultimate risk that the other person might get angry and leave. Confrontation feels like a direct path to the very abandonment they are trying to avoid. So, instead of saying "what you just did hurt my feelings," which would require immense vulnerability, they retreat into their shell and master a form of communication that feels safer because it allows them to express their displeasure without ever having to claim it directly. This is the subtle, maddening, and deeply manipulative language of passive aggression. Passive aggression is aggression disguised as passivity. It's a way to punish someone, to express anger, and to control their behavior, all while maintaining plausible deniability. It is the art of wielding silence and suggestion like a weapon. The goal is to make the other person feel the full weight of your unhappiness, forcing them to become an emotional detective scrambling to figure out what they did wrong and how to fix it all, while you get to maintain the position of the innocent wounded party. Let's paint a very common picture. You've had a long week, and you make plans to go out with your friends on a Friday night. Your Cancer partner had been secretly hoping for a quiet night at home, curled up on the couch, reinforcing the safety of the nest. But they never voiced this desire. They assumed you would intuitively know what they needed, or they were afraid to ask directly for fear of sounding needy. So, when Friday evening comes and you start getting ready to go out, the atmosphere begins to change. They don't say, "I'm disappointed you're leaving." Instead, they become very quiet. They might start tidying up the kitchen with just a little too much force, the clatter of plates and silverware cutting through the silence. You, sensing the shift, ask the inevitable question, "Is everything okay?" And they reply with the classic clipped phrase, "I'm fine." But the tone is anything but fine. They won't make eye contact. They might follow it up with, "No, really? You go. Have a good time." Every word is a dart dipped in unspoken resentment. The message is clear: I am not fine. My feelings are hurt. You are being selfish for leaving, but I am not going to be direct about it. You are now in an impossible position. If you stay home, you reward the passive-aggressive behavior. If you go out, you are made to feel immensely guilty, and the fun you were hoping to have is tainted by the emotional cloud you've left behind. Your partner has successfully controlled the emotional climate and punished you for your choice, without ever having an honest conversation. This is the core mechanic, and it has a whole toolbox. The most powerful tool is the silent treatment. By withdrawing all communication and affection, the Cancer creates an emotional vacuum. This is incredibly painful and destabilizing for a loved one. It makes you feel invisible, rejected, and desperate to restore the connection. You start replaying every recent interaction, trying to figure out your crime. You'll likely apologize profusely often for something you don't even understand, just to end the torment of the silence. In this, the Cancer holds all the power, granting forgiveness and restoring connection only when they feel you have adequately paid for your transgression. Then there is the heavy sigh. It's an auditory signal of suffering, strategically deployed when you are in earshot. It's a non-verbal broadcast that says, "You are burdening me," or "I am sacrificing so much, and you are ungrateful." It's designed to make you stop what you're doing and ask, "What's wrong?" Allowing them to respond with a dismissive, "Oh, nothing," which only deepens the mystery and your own sense of guilt. And of course, there are the loaded martyring statements. "Don't worry about me. I'll be fine here by myself." Or "It's okay. I'll just do all of this myself. I'm used to it." These phrases are engineered to make you feel like a terrible, selfish person. They are accusations disguised as self-pity. The entire strategy hinges on making their emotions your responsibility. They avoid the vulnerable act of saying, "I feel lonely and I need you to stay home with me tonight," and instead choose the manipulative path of making you feel too guilty to leave. It is a profound abdication of emotional self-responsibility, and it slowly and surely erodes the trust and intimacy in a relationship, replacing it with a toxic dynamic of guesswork, anxiety, and resentment. As we hold this difficult pattern in a compassionate light, understanding the fear it comes from, we can also look at our own tendencies. When you are upset with someone, are you more likely to state your feelings directly, or to withdraw and hope they notice your change in mood? What is the fear or hope that drives that choice? If passive aggression is the delivery system, then the emotional payload it so often carries is guilt. The guilt trip is perhaps the most infamous and effective tactic in the Cancerian shadow playbook. It is a powerful form of emotional leverage, a way to control your behavior not with overt demands or threats, but by turning your own conscience, your own empathy, against you. It is the art of making you feel that your autonomy, your happiness, or your personal needs are a direct and cruel injury to them. The goal is to make the discomfort of the guilt so great that you will abandon your own course of action and return to the behavior that makes the Cancer feel secure. Why is guilt such a potent weapon for this sign? Because it works best on people with a good heart. It is a form of manipulation that preys on your love, your loyalty, and your sense of responsibility, the very qualities that likely drew you into a relationship with a caring Cancer in the first place. They are not trying to leverage your weakness. They are leveraging your strength. They know you are an empathetic person who doesn't want to cause pain. So, they create a narrative in which their pain is a direct consequence of your freedom. This forces you to police your own behavior, to constantly ask yourself, will this upset them? You become your own jailer, and the bars of the cage are forged from your own sense of duty and compassion. Let's look at a deeply classic scenario. A young adult who lives at home is invited on a spontaneous weekend trip with their friends. They are excited for the adventure and the independence. They go to tell their Cancer mother, expecting her to be happy for them. But the mother's fear of abandonment and the temporary emptiness of the nest is triggered. She doesn't forbid the trip. Overt prohibition isn't her style. Instead, she masterfully lays a guilt trap. She sigh and say something like, "Oh, a trip with your friends. That sounds so lovely, honey. It's just such a shame it's the same weekend as your grandfather's birthday. You know, since he passed. I was planning on going to visit his grave. Probably all by myself. And then I thought I'd come home and look through his old photo albums. But that's okay, you go have fun. It's important for you to be with your friends." Let's dissect this masterpiece of manipulation. In a few short sentences, she has taken her child's joyful plan and reframed it as a selfish abandonment of family, duty, and sacred memory. She has painted a vivid picture of herself as a lonely, grieving widow bravely facing her sorrow alone. She explicitly gives permission you, go have fun, which makes it even more insidious, because now if the child feels bad, it's their own fault. They are now faced with an impossible choice. If they go on the trip, they will be haunted by the image of their lonely mother at a gravesite, and their fun will be soured by guilt. If they cancel the trip, they will be filled with resentment for their lost freedom. But they will have temporarily appeased their mother and relieved the awful feeling of being a bad child. The guilt trip has worked perfectly. This tactic relies on a few key mechanics. The first is the invocation of past sacrifices. The unspoken subtext of many Cancerian guilt trips is, After everything I have done for you, all the nurturing, all the care, all the soul-level nourishment we spoke of earlier can be weaponized. Acts that should have been given freely from a place of love are subtly reframed as emotional debts. The Cancer keeps a secret, invisible ledger of their sacrifices, and when they feel insecure, they present you with the bill. Your payment is your compliance and your proximity. The second mechanic is the constant highlighting of their own suffering, and the subtle implication that you are either the cause of it or are callously indifferent to it. Their sighs, their fatigue, their loneliness, all of it is laid at your feet. You become responsible for their emotional regulation. If they are sad, it is your job to cheer them up. If they are lonely, it is your job to stay with them. This creates a deeply codependent and suffocating dynamic. Ultimately, the guilt trip is a strategy to ensure loyalty and keep you tethered to the nest. It's a leash woven from love and obligation. The long-term effect is that the person on the receiving end begins to shrink their own life. They stop taking opportunities. They hesitate to form new relationships. They dim their own light to avoid triggering the Cancer's insecurity and the subsequent wave of guilt. Love begins to feel less like a safe harbor and more like a heavy debt you can never repay. The Cancer, trapped in their fear, doesn't see this. They only see that their tactic worked. You stayed, and for a moment, their terror of being abandoned is quieted. This is a painful pattern to look at, both in others and in ourselves. Take a gentle moment to reflect on this. Is there a person in your life whose approval you work hard to get? And what does it feel like when you feel you've disappointed them? What is the story you tell yourself about what their disappointment means? The guilt trips and the passive-aggressive silences are often narrated by a very specific character that the insecure Cancerian soul learns to play. It's a role that grants them immense power while allowing them to appear completely powerless. It is the role of the martyr. They take the beautiful, divine impulse toward self-sacrifice, born from the loving heart of the mother archetype, and they twist it into a performance of suffering. They don the martyr's crown, not because they enjoy the pain, but because the perceived nobility of their suffering becomes a potent tool for emotional leverage and control. At its core, the martyr complex is an identity built on the foundation of victimhood. The martyr is the one who always loves the most, gives the most, and suffers in silence for the benefit of others. But the key difference between true, selfless sacrifice and martyrdom is that the martyr needs an audience. Their sacrifice is not a quiet act of love. It is a public performance designed to elicit a specific response. They don't actually want you to solve their problems or alleviate their suffering, because their suffering is the source of their power. To take away their burden would be to take away their primary tool of manipulation. Think of a large family holiday dinner hosted by a Cancer who is deep in their shadow. They will insist on cooking a ridiculously elaborate meal single-handedly. Throughout the day, every offer of help from their children or guests will be met with a weary but firm refusal. No, you just relax and enjoy yourselves. I've got it. But this statement is not delivered with joy. It is accompanied by a series of heavy-sized, dramatic wipes of the brow and audible groans as they bend over to the oven. They will make sure to mention, several times, that they've been on their feet since 5 this morning to make this perfect for everyone. They are not just cooking a meal, they are constructing a public narrative of their own self-immolation. By the time dinner is served, they have created an atmosphere thick with a mixture of gratitude and guilt. Everyone at the table is acutely aware of the immense sacrifice that has been made on their behalf. This has several effects. First, it makes the host immune to criticism. Who would dare complain about the dry turkey when this poor saint has slaved away all day? Second, it demands a certain kind of behavior, deference, effusive praise, and emotional caretaking of the host. The subtext of the entire event is, look how much I suffer because I love you. Therefore, you owe me. You owe me your appreciation, your loyalty, and your good behavior. They have passive-aggressively controlled the emotional tenor of the entire gathering by centering their own exhaustion. This dynamic is fueled by the classic martyr phrase, "Don't worry about me." When a Cancer in this state says not to worry, they are commanding you to worry. When they refuse your help, they are highlighting your inadequacy or your perceived lack of care. When they say, "It's fine, I'll just do it myself," it's not a declaration of their capability. It's an accusation of your failure to step up, even if they blocked you from doing so. It's a strategic move to maximize their own sacrifice and keep you in a state of perpetual indebtedness. This identity is a tragic defense mechanism against their deepest insecurities. The person who adopts the martyr role does not, on a core level, believe that they are lovable for who they are. They believe that their worth is conditional, that love must be earned through tireless service and demonstrable sacrifice. They are terrified that if they stop giving, if they stop being the indispensable caretaker, people will have no reason to stick around. Their constant busyness, their refusal of care, their performance of suffering, it's all a desperate attempt to prove their value, to make themselves so essential to the lives of their loved ones that they could never be abandoned. Wearing the martyr's crown is a way of binding people to them with chains of pity and obligation. It makes leaving them or setting boundaries with them feel like a profound act of cruelty. How could you possibly walk away from someone who has given up everything for you? The martyr archetype is the ultimate guilt trap, a pervasive atmospheric pressure that constantly reminds you of your debt. It's a way of saying, "I love you. That sounds an awful lot like you owe me," turning the beautiful act of giving into a painful emotional transaction. As we look at this pattern, it's a powerful opportunity for self-reflection. It's easy to see in others, but harder to see in ourselves. So, take a moment to ask yourself this. In what areas of your life do you tend to overgive? Do you do this from a place of genuine joy? Or is there a part of you that hopes your efforts will be recognized and repaid in some way? As we delve deeper into these shadow patterns, the passive aggression, the guilt trips, the martyr's crown, we begin to see that they are not just isolated tactics. They are all components of a larger subconscious operating system. This system is at the very heart of the switch from love to manipulation. We can call it a system of emotional bartering. In this dynamic, the beautiful, life-giving acts of Cancerian care are no longer offered freely as gifts from the heart. Instead, they become transactions. Each act of nurturing is a down payment, an investment made with the unspoken expectation of a very specific return on that investment. Your loyalty, your compliance, and a guarantee that you will never leave them. In a healthy, conscious relationship, the act of giving is its own reward. You comfort a friend because you love them and their pain hurts you. You cook a meal for your partner because their joy brings you joy. The energy flows freely. But in the shadow economy of emotional bartering, every act of care comes with an invisible price tag. The Cancer, operating from their fear of abandonment, is essentially saying on a subconscious level, "I will provide you with this unparalleled comfort, this deep emotional security, this sacred nest. In exchange, you will give me the thing I need to survive. You will stay. You will not grow in a way that threatens me. You will not have needs that pull you away from me. You will make me the center of your emotional world, thus ensuring I am never abandoned." Let's see how this plays out in a friendship. Imagine you're going through a major life crisis, a painful breakup, or the loss of a job. Your Cancer friend steps up and becomes your absolute rock. They are the epitome of Cancerian light. They bring you food. They let you cry on their shoulder for hours. They cancel their own plans to sit with you. They text you every morning to see how you're doing. You feel profoundly loved and supported, and you are incredibly grateful. Their care helps you get back on your feet. A few months pass. You've healed. You're feeling stronger, and maybe you've even started a new, exciting relationship. Suddenly, your Cancer friend, who had seemed so selfless, starts to become demanding and possessive. They get moody when you want to spend a Saturday night with your new partner instead of them. If you don't answer their texts right away, they become sullen. One day it comes to a head, and they say the classic words of the emotional barterer. "After everything I did for you when you were at your lowest, I can't believe you're just abandoning me now." And there it is, the bill has come due. The incredible care they gave you was not a gift. It was a loan. You were being invested in during your time of need, and now that you are no longer in crisis, they are calling in the debt. They expect to be repaid with your primary time and attention. Your healing and newfound happiness, which should be a cause for celebration, is instead perceived as a threat to their position and a breach of an unwritten contract. This is the transactional nature that makes these dynamics so toxic and confusing. The passive aggression is the complaint department for a bad deal. The guilt trip is the collection agency that comes knocking when you're late on a payment. The martyr complex is the public display of their massive investment portfolio, designed to remind you just how much you owe. It all serves the same goal: to maintain control and to lock you into a dynamic where your needs are secondary to their security. True intimacy cannot survive in this kind of economy. Genuine connection requires the freedom to be authentic, to disagree, to have separate lives, to grow and change. But in a relationship governed by emotional bartering, you are not free to be a whole person. You are cast in a role: the grateful recipient, the loyal subject. To set a boundary, to say no, to have a need that conflicts with theirs is not seen as a normal part of a relationship. It is seen as a profound betrayal, an act of unforgivable ingratitude. You find yourself trapped by their kindness, suffocated by their care. The very things that once felt like love now feel like the chains that bind you. This is the ultimate corruption of the mother archetype. The unconditional love that nurtures life is replaced by a highly conditional contract designed to prevent loss. This is a deeply unconscious pattern for the Cancer caught within it. They are not a cynical accountant tallying up your debts. They are a terrified soul. using the only tools they have, their gifts of nurturing, to try and build a fortress against their deepest fears. But the result is a prison for two, where neither person is free to experience the authentic, flowing, and truly unconditional love they both crave. Take a moment to bring this into your own life. Think about your most important relationships. Do they feel like a free exchange of energy and support? Or are there times when you feel a sense of obligation or indebtedness? What creates that feeling? That subconscious system of emotional bartering we've been exploring has a very specific primary objective. If the fear is abandonment, then the ultimate antidote to that fear is to make it impossible for the other person to leave. And how do you do that? You make yourself absolutely, unequivocally indispensable. The insecure Cancerian soul, in its desperate bid for security, can become a master weaver, spinning a beautiful, intricate web of dependency. This web is not spun from malice. It is spun from threads of genuine care, helpfulness, and love. That is what makes it so difficult to see and so incredibly difficult to untangle. The core belief driving this pattern is, if you need me, you will never leave me. For a Cancer whose identity has become completely enmeshed with their role as a caretaker, the thought of their loved ones becoming fully self-sufficient is paradoxically terrifying. It triggers an existential panic. If my children no longer need me to cook for them, who am I? If my partner can solve their own emotional problems without me, what is my value in this relationship? If you don't need me, why would you stay? And so, a subconscious mission is launched to ensure that you always, in some way, need them. This weaving of dependency happens on several levels. Let's look at the practical side first. Consider the dynamic between a Cancer parent and their adult child. The parent, coming from a place they define as love, continues to overfunction in their child's life long past the point of necessity. They might insist on managing the child's finances, calling to remind them about bills. They might show up unannounced to do their laundry and stock their fridge. They make their doctor's appointments for them. Every major life decision the child considers is met with a flood of the parent's opinions and unsolicited but well-meaning advice. On the surface, this looks like incredible generosity. What child wouldn't want that level of support? But look at the underlying effect. The adult child is subtly and consistently being given the message that they are not quite capable of managing their life on their own. Their own confidence in their abilities is slowly eroded. They become accustomed to this level of help. So the idea of full independence feels daunting. This dynamic keeps them tethered to the parent, constantly needing to check in, to ask for help, to rely on their guidance. The parent has successfully secured their role as the essential caretaker, and in doing so has quieted their fear of being rendered obsolete. Then there is the even more potent emotional dependency. In this dynamic, the Cancer positions themselves as the only person who truly gets you. They are such a gifted and intuitive listener, such a safe harbor for your feelings, that you begin to feel that they are the only one you can really talk to. They might subtly reinforce this by casting doubt on your other relationships. Are you sure you can trust her with that? She doesn't understand you the way I do. They become your primary, and sometimes sole, emotional confidant. Your sense of well-being becomes dependent on their approval and their presence. When you have a bad day, your first instinct is not to self-soothe or reflect, but to call them. They have become your external emotional regulator, and this deep, emotional enmeshment is the strongest thread in their web. This is the shadow expression of their beautiful intuition. The light side of their empathy says, I feel what you're going through. Let me sit with you in it. The shadow side says, I know what you're feeling better than you do, and I know what's best for you, so just listen to me. It's a subtle hijacking of your own inner guidance system. They foster self-doubt by constantly pointing out the potential pitfalls of any plan that might lead you toward greater independence. They frame this as protection, but the result is that you learn to distrust your own judgment and rely more and more on theirs. The tragedy of this dynamic is that it can feel comfortable for both parties. For a time, the person being cared for is shielded from many of life's challenges and feels deeply looked after. The Cancer feels secure, needed, and validated in their role, but it is a gilded cage. It is a relationship that prevents growth. The person being enmeshed is not allowed to develop their own strength, resilience, and sovereignty. And the Cancer's security is fragile, built not on the solid foundation of a relationship between two whole, independent people, but on the manufactured weakness of the other. The nurturing nest has become a cocoon that never allows the butterfly to emerge. This is a subtle and complex dynamic to identify in our own lives. I want you to reflect on this. In your relationships, where is the line between healthy support and enabling? Think of a time you either received or gave help. Did it empower the person to become stronger, or did it create a reliance on the helper? The web of dependency we just discussed is held together by some very strong, very sticky threads. And perhaps the most powerful of these is Cancer's ability to control the narrative of the relationship itself. They do this by wielding their greatest gift, their profound connection to memory as a tool of manipulation. We've talked about how, in its light expression, the Cancer is the sacred keeper of memories, using the past to build a beautiful tapestry of connection and belonging. But in its shadow, the Cancer becomes the revisionist historian, subtly rewriting the past to serve their present emotional needs. We must return to the foundational principle we established earlier. For the Cancerian soul, emotion is reality. Their memory is not a factual recording device like a video camera. It is an emotional archive. An event is not stored based on what objectively happened, but on how it felt to them. This subjective feeling-toned memory is their truth. The problem arises when their truth is presented as the only truth, and any competing version of reality is dismissed, denied, or pathologized. This is where a subtle but potent form of emotional manipulation, often called gaslighting, can enter the dynamic. It's the process of making someone question their own perceptions, their own memory, and ultimately, their own sanity. With a Cancer, this is rarely a conscious, villainous plot. It is a deeply ingrained defense mechanism to protect their fragile sense of security and their self-image as the loving caretaker. Let's look at a common example in a partnership. You and your Cancer partner have an argument. In the heat of the moment, they say something that is genuinely hurtful and unfair. You feel a sharp sting of pain and withdraw. Later, when things have calmed down, you try to address it. You say, "I need to talk about what happened earlier. I felt really hurt when you said that I was being selfish." Now, a healthy response would be to acknowledge your feelings and discuss the statement. But a Cancer who has been triggered into their shadow self will feel a surge of defensive panic. To admit they said something hurtful is to admit they were the bad guy, which threatens their identity as the nurturer and could, in their fear-based mind, threaten the entire relationship. So, their emotional memory performs a subconscious edit. They will reply with absolute conviction, "I would never say that. Why are you remembering it that way? That's not what I said at all. What I actually said was that I was worried you were stretching yourself too thin, and I was just trying to help." You're the one who got overly emotional about it for no reason. Notice what has happened. They are not just disagreeing with you. They are invalidating your entire reality. Their memory, which has prioritized the feeling of their good intentions over the fact of their hurtful words, is presented as the objective truth. Your memory is labeled as flawed, and your emotional reaction is labeled as an overreaction. Over time, if this pattern repeats, you start to question yourself. Did I mishear them? Am I crazy? Maybe I am too sensitive. You begin to lose trust in your own mind and your own feelings. This is how they control the narrative. The official history of the relationship becomes the one that is curated by their feelings. Fights are remembered not by what was said, but by how they were the one who was misunderstood. Your achievements might be remembered with a footnote about how they supported you through them. Your mistakes might be remembered with a particular emphasis that keeps you in a position of needing their forgiveness. They become the sole arbiter of what really happened, and because their conviction is so total, they genuinely believe their version it can be incredibly difficult to hold on to your own. This constant invalidation makes you more dependent on them. When your own perception of reality is constantly being undermined, you start to rely on their version of events, their interpretation of your own feelings. It strengthens that web of dependency we talked about. You lose the solid ground of your own experience and find yourself on their shifting, emotional terrain. Phrases like "you're misremembering that never happened," or "you're taking it the wrong way," become the invisible bars of your cage. They are all designed to do one thing: protect the Cancer's emotional safety by making you the one who is wrong, broken, or unreliable. It is the ultimate act of self-preservation, but it comes at the devastating cost of your own sense of self. This is a painful dynamic to recognize as it attacks the very foundation of your reality. Take a moment to think about the nature of memory in your own life. Have you ever been in a situation where your memory of an event was completely different from someone else? How did you navigate that difference, and what did it make you feel about your own perception of reality? Underpinning all of these shadow behaviors, the guilt trips, the martyrdom, the rewriting of history is a single, powerful, and deeply self-deceptive justification. It is the master key that the insecure Cancer uses to unlock any door of manipulation while maintaining their own sense of righteousness. It is the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card for emotional control. It is the "for your own good" clause. This simple phrase and the belief system behind it is what makes their manipulation so insidious and so difficult to confront. It cloaks control in the sacred robes of love, and it reframes possessiveness as profound protection. The power of this justification lies in its grain of truth. A Cancer's desire to protect their loved ones is absolutely genuine. It comes from the deepest, purest part of the mother archetype. They look out at the world, see its sharp edges and potential dangers, and their most primal instinct is to gather their loved ones into the safety of their shell. The problem is that in their shadow state, fueled by their own anxieties, They lose the ability to distinguish between genuine, empowering protection and fear-based, disempowering control. Their need to soothe their own fears becomes projected onto you as a need for their constant intervention in your life. Let us take the classic scenario of a young person bringing home a new partner for the first time. The Cancer parent, whose identity is deeply wrapped up in their child, feels an immediate subconscious threat. This new person has the potential to become the primary emotional attachment in their child's life, effectively displacing them. Their fear of abandonment is on high alert, but this fear is too terrifying to face directly, so it gets transmuted. It emerges as concern. The parent will start to subtly critique the new partner. They'll use their powerful intuition to zero in on potential flaws. They seem nice, but there's just something about their energy I don't trust. Or, are you sure they're ambitious enough for you? If the child defends their new love, the parent will retreat into the fortress of the for your own good clause. They'll say with a pained, loving expression, "Honey, I'm not trying to criticize them. I've just lived longer than you and I can see things that you can't. I would never forgive myself if I didn't warn you. I'm just trying to protect you from getting hurt." This is an incredibly difficult argument to counter. They are not presenting their opinion as an opinion. They are presenting it as a form of higher wisdom born from love. They are framing their interference not as a selfish need to control their child's life, but as a selfless act of parental protection. If the child continues the relationship, they are now not only going against their parent's wishes, but also being naive and ungrateful for the loving protection they've even offered. The parent has successfully reframed their own possessiveness as a virtue. This justification is the engine that drives the whole shadow system. The guilt trip about you taking a vacation is reframed as, "I just worry about you being so far from home. It's for your own good." The act of fostering dependency by managing your finances is justified as, "I'm just protecting you from making mistakes, because you're not as careful as I am." The rewriting of your shared history is explained as, "I need to help you see what really happened, because your emotions are clouding your judgment, and that's not good for you." It is essential to understand the difference between authentic care and this form of control. Authentic care and protection seeks to empower. It says, "The world can be tough. Here are some tools. Here is my wisdom from experience, and here is a safe place to land if you fall. I trust you to go live your life and make your own choices, even if you make mistakes." It fosters resilience. Control, on the other hand, seeks to disguise it. "The world is too dangerous for you. You are not wise enough or strong enough to navigate it without my constant guidance. Therefore, you must let me make your choices for you, or at least heavily influence them to prevent you from ever falling." It fosters dependency. The "for your own good" mantra is ultimately not about you. It is the lullaby the insecure Cancer sings to themselves to quiet their own anxieties. Their fear of the unknown, their fear of you changing, their fear of you no longer needing them, it all gets bundled into a neat package of protecting you. They are not managing your life for your benefit. They are managing your life to soothe their own terror. And because they genuinely believe their own justification, they can perform these acts of control with a clear conscience, making it all the more bewildering for the person trapped in their loving, suffocating embrace. Take a moment now to think about the energy of empowerment versus the energy of control in your own life. Think of a time someone gave you advice or tried to influence your decision for your own good. Did that intervention leave you feeling more capable and empowered, or did it leave you feeling doubted and controlled? What was the difference? We've now journeyed through the murky shallows of the Cancerian shadow, exploring the subtle currents of passive aggression, guilt, and dependency. But there are times when the tide of fear rises to a terrifying height, when all the subtle manipulations have failed to secure the connection, and the Cancerian soul feels the ground of its security crumbling beneath it. In this state of ultimate panic, they may unleash their most desperate and most damaging tactic. This is the last resort, claws out, clinging for dear life maneuver. Emotional blackmail. This is the point where the subtext becomes text, where the fear of abandonment is no longer a hidden current, but a raging wave threatening to drown you both. Emotional blackmail is exactly what it sounds like. It is a form of profound psychological manipulation where someone holds their own emotional well-being, and sometimes even their physical health, hostage in exchange for your compliance. The implicit message is, if you do not do what I want, I will suffer terribly, and it will be your fault. It is the ultimate abdication of self-responsibility, a desperate act that makes you the sole guardian of their emotional survival. It's a dynamic shrouded in what psychologist Susan Forward famously called fog: fear, obligation, and guilt. The blackmailer creates a thick fog of these emotions to obscure your own needs and coerce you into meeting theirs. Let's look at this in its most painful and common context: the end of a relationship. A person has decided, after much thought, that they need to break up with their Cancer partner. They try to do it kindly and clearly, but the Cancer, for whom this separation feels like a literal annihilation of their world, cannot accept it. Their survival instinct goes into overdrive. The subtle manipulations have failed to keep the person there, so the desperation escalates. They might begin to fall apart in a way that feels both genuine and strategic. The tears will flow, but they will be accompanied by terrifying statements. If you leave me, I don't know what I'll do. My life will be over. You are the only thing that has ever made me happy. If that doesn't work, the threat can become more direct. I won't survive this. I won't be able to get out of bed. I can't promise I won't do something to hurt myself. Suddenly, you are no longer just a person ending a relationship. You are a person holding a life in your hands. The decision to leave is reframed as an act of potential destruction. This is emotional hostage-taking. The demand is clear: stay with me. The threat is also clear: if you don't, I will collapse, and you will have to live with the guilt of having caused it for the rest of your life. This is the raw, unfiltered terror of the Cancerian core wound laid bare. All the buffers of passive aggression and martyrdom are gone. This is the primal scream of the abandoned child, using the only weapon it has left, its own suffering. This blackmail can also take a physical form. The person facing the threat of abandonment might suddenly develop severe, debilitating psychosomatic symptoms. They might have panic attacks, incapacitating migraines, or a flare-up of a chronic illness. Their body becomes the stage upon which their emotional terror is performed. It's not a conscious act of faking. Their emotional pain is so immense that it is literally making their body sick. But the effect is the same. How can you possibly leave someone who is so sick and fragile? Your departure becomes an act of unbelievable cruelty. This dynamic creates an impossible trap. If you stay, you are staying out of pity, fear, and obligation, not love. This is a recipe for profound resentment and the slow death of your own soul. You will live your life walking on eggshells, constantly managing their fragility, your own needs perpetually silenced. If you leave, you are made to feel like the most monstrous person in the world. You may be haunted for years by the fear that their collapse is your fault. Anxiously checking their social media or talking to mutual friends to make sure they have followed through on their threats, it is absolutely vital, though incredibly difficult, to understand that this behavior is not a sign of strength or evil. It is a sign of profound emotional woundedness. The person resorting to emotional blackmail has no internal foundation of self-worth. Their sense of self is so completely enmeshed with the relationship that the threat of its end feels like the threat of their own existence ceasing. They have no tools for self-soothing. They have only ever learned to feel safe through their attachment to another. But understanding the wound does not mean capitulating to the manipulation. It is the beginning of finding a way to act with both compassion for their pain and unwavering firmness in honor of your own right to freedom and a healthy life. This is the deepest, darkest part of the ocean. Reflect for a moment on the immense weight of this dynamic. What does the concept of being responsible for another person's happiness mean to you? Where do you draw the line between supportive care and taking on a burden that is unto yours to carry? We have spent a long time now navigating the deep and often treacherous waters of the Cancerian shadow. We've named the patterns, we've dissected the motives, and we've held the pain that fuels them with as much compassion as we can muster. But compassion without action is just sentiment. Now, we shift. We move from the what to the what now. This part of our journey is for you, the person who loves a Cancer, who recognizes some of these painful dynamics and is feeling confused, drained, and trapped. The first step toward healing any dynamic is to bring the clear light of conscious awareness to it. You have to learn how to distinguish between the gestures of genuine love and the strategies of subtle manipulation. This is incredibly challenging, because as we've seen, the actions can look identical. A home-cooked meal can be a pure offering of soul-level nourishment, or it can be the first deposit in an emotional bank account from which you'll be expected to withdraw later. An expression of concern can be a genuine reflection of their empathy, or it can be a seed of doubt planted to keep you from trying something new. If you try to analyze the actions alone, you will get lost in confusion. So, you must learn to use a different, more reliable barometer: your own body. Your intuition. The key to telling the difference lies not in what they do, but in how their actions and energy make you feel. Genuine love, the light side of the Cancerian moon, feels expansive. It nourishes you and makes you feel more yourself. It's like a warm, comforting blanket on a cold night. It feels wonderful, and you have the freedom to throw it off if you get too warm. There is no obligation attached. Manipulation, the shadow side, feels constricting. It can also feel like a blanket at first. It can feel like care, like being looked after, but it's a heavy weighted blanket that you can't easily remove. It starts to feel suffocating. It restricts your movement. After an interaction, you don't feel energized or affirmed. You feel drained, a little smaller, a little heavier. Let's create some clear signposts for you. When you are on the receiving end of a Cancer's care, ask yourself these questions. First, does this feel like a gift or a loan? A true gift is given freely from the heart, with no expectation of repayment. The joy is in the giving. When you receive it, you feel a sense of warmth and gratitude. A loan, on the other hand, comes with an unwritten contract. When you receive it, there's a subtle underlying feeling of indebtedness. There's a part of you that knows this will be brought up later. The soup they bring you when you're sick is a gift if they say, "Just wanted you to have this, rest up." It's a loan if they say, "I went to 3 different stores to find the organic ingredients for this soup for you." A statement that immediately puts you in their debt. Second, does this empower me or disable me? Authentic care wants to see you grow stronger. It offers support that builds your own capacity and confidence. It helps you learn how to fly. Manipulative care, disguised as help, fosters dependency. It does things for you that you could do for yourself, subtly communicating that you are not capable. It wants to keep you in the nest. Does their help make you feel more resilient and ready to face the world, or does it make you feel more reliant on them for your next move? Third, how is my no received? This is the ultimate test. In a relationship based on love, your no is respected. You are allowed to have boundaries. You can disagree, you can want space, you can make a different choice, and the fundamental connection remains secure. In a manipulative dynamic, your no is seen as a rejection, a betrayal. It is punished, often with the silent treatment, passive aggression, or a guilt trip. If you feel that you cannot say no without threatening the entire emotional stability of the relationship, you are not in a dynamic of unconditional love. And finally, does this relationship make my world feel bigger or smaller? Love encourages your growth, celebrates your other connections, and supports your individual journey. It wants you to have a rich, full life. Manipulation seeks to isolate you. It is jealous of your time, suspicious of your other friends, and resistant to any changes that might lessen your focus on the relationship. Do you find yourself hesitating to try new things or meet new people because you know it will upset them? Are you shrinking your life to fit into their comfort zone? Recognizing these red flags is not about judging or blaming the Cancer in your life. It is not about labeling them a bad person. It is about honoring your own reality. It is an act of profound self-love to acknowledge that a dynamic, however well-intentioned, is hurting you. You cannot begin to change the dance until you can clearly see the steps. I want you to try this right now. Take a deep breath, tune into your body. Think about a specific, important relationship in your life. Without analyzing it with your mind, just feel. Does the thought of that person and your dynamic make your body feel more open and relaxed, or more tight and guarded? Just notice the physical sensation. That physical sensation you just noticed in your body, that feeling of openness or of tightening, is your truth. It is your inner compass, and learning to trust it is the first and most critical step. Now, once you have used that compass to identify a dynamic that is constricting you, the work begins. The only way to protect your own emotional harbor from the constant crashing waves of another person's neediness and control is to build a breakwater. This breakwater is your boundaries. Setting firm, clear, loving emotional boundaries is not an act of aggression. It is not a rejection of the Cancer in your life. It is a sacred act of self-preservation. It is the practice of defining where you end and they begin, and it is the only thing that can transform a codependently enmeshed dynamic into a healthy and sustainable connection between two sovereign individuals. Let us be very clear. Setting a boundary with a Cancer who is operating from their shadow will almost certainly be met with resistance. Your no, your assertion of separateness, is the very thing their entire manipulative system is designed to prevent. When you build a breakwater, the tide is going to crash against it. You will likely be met with a full-blown emotional storm, a guilt trip, the iciest of silent treatments, a dramatic display of hurt feelings, or perhaps even the emotional blackmail we spoke of. They will perceive your boundary not as an act of health, but as a deep, personal rejection that triggers their core wound of abandonment. The entire point of this practice is to learn how to hold your breakwater steady through that storm. So, how do you do it? Let's break it down into a practical process. First, you must get crystal clear with yourself about what the boundary is. Before you ever open your mouth, you need to identify precisely what you are no longer available for. Is it the constant, unsolicited advice? Is it the expectation that you will answer your phone at any hour to process their feelings? Is it the unannounced visits? Is it the passive-aggressive comments? Take some time to journal or meditate on it. Define your no for yourself. A fuzzy boundary is no boundary at all. Second, when you communicate the boundary, do it clearly, simply, and with as much kindness as you can muster. This is not the time for a dramatic confrontation. Use I statements that focus on your own needs, not their behavior. For example, instead of an accusatory, "You are so controlling and you need to stop telling me how to live my life," which will only trigger their defenses. Try a calm and firm, "I love you and I value your perspective. Going forward, I need to be the one to make my own decisions about my career, and I won't be asking for advice on it anymore." See the difference? The first is a fight. The second is a clear statement of your own autonomy. Third, and this is perhaps the most crucial part, do not jade. That stands for justify, argue, defend, or explain. A boundary is not the opening statement of a debate. It is a declaration of what is true for you. An insecure Cancer will try to pull you into an argument. They will pick apart your reasons, question your motives, and try to make you defend your need for space. Do not take the bait. You do not need to justify your need for a boundary, because "this is what I need for my well-being" is a complete and total reason. The more you explain, the more material you give them to manipulate. Fourth, you must prepare for the backlash and hold the line. When they react with hurt, your instinct, especially if you are an empathetic person, will be to rush in, apologize, and retract the boundary to make them feel better. You must resist this urge. Your job is to manage your discomfort with their reaction, not to manage their reaction itself. You can validate their feeling without taking responsibility for it. You can say, "I can see that my decision has upset you, and that wasn't my intention to cause you pain. However, my boundary still stands." This is a profoundly empowering stance. It allows them to have their feelings while you get to have your needs met. Let's go back to the parent who is constantly criticizing their child's new partner. The child's boundary might be, "Mom, I know you love me and want the best for me. I need you to know that my relationship with my partner is not a topic that is open for discussion or advice anymore. I need to navigate this myself." When the mother inevitably responds with a hurt, "But I was just trying to protect you," the child does not argue. They calmly repeat, "I know you were, and I appreciate that. This is just a boundary I need for myself now. So, did you want to tell me about your garden?" They hold the line and they redirect, every time. This is how the new pattern is established. It is an act of love, tough love, perhaps, but it is love. It is teaching them slowly that your love for them is not contingent on your total enmeshment, and you are giving them the difficult but necessary opportunity to learn to soothe their own anxieties. As you consider this, think about your own life. What is one small, manageable boundary you could set in a relationship this week? What is the fear that comes up when you imagine holding that boundary? And what is the freedom you imagine on the other side of it? Once you begin the practice of building your breakwater, of setting those crucial boundaries, you will quickly discover what those boundaries are meant to protect you from. The powerful, ever-changing tides of the Cancerian emotional world. One of the most defining characteristics of this lunar-ruled sign is their cyclical moodiness. Their inner emotional weather can shift from sunny and calm to a torrential downpour with very little warning. And for those who love them, learning to navigate these shifts without getting swept away is an essential survival skill. The first and most important step is to depersonalize their moods. When the Cancer in your life suddenly becomes withdrawn, irritable, or melancholic, the immediate instinct for a loving partner or friend is to think, "What did I do wrong?" You start anxiously replaying your recent interactions, searching for the cause of their displeasure. But you must understand this. 9 times out of 10, their mood has absolutely nothing to do with you. Remember, they are emotional sponges. They could be processing anxiety. They absorbed from their boss at work, feeling the weight of a sad story on the news, or simply be in a dark moon phase of their own inner cycle where they need to retreat and recharge. Their moods are like the weather. You don't blame yourself when it starts to rain. You simply acknowledge it and get an umbrella. Your goal is to shift from being a small boat tossed about on the waves of their emotions to becoming a lighthouse. Think about that imagery. A lighthouse does not try to calm the storm. It does not get angry at the waves for crashing against its base. It simply stands firm on its own solid foundation, anchored to the earth, and continues to shine its own steady light. It offers a point of stability in the midst of the tempest. This is the energy you must cultivate. How do you become a lighthouse? It requires practice and a few key skills. First, you must practice energetic non-absorption. This is a conscious boundary for your own emotional body. When they walk into the room with a dark cloud over their head, you must learn not to immediately take that cloud into your own being. You can visualize a shield of golden light around you, a semi-permeable membrane that allows love to pass through but repels the frequency of their anxiety or sadness. You can acknowledge their feeling, "I can see you having a hard time right now," without having to feel it yourself. This creates a crucial buffer that allows you to remain calm and centered. Second, you must release the role of the fixer. When you see someone you love in pain, the compassionate instinct is to try and make it better. But with a moody Cancer rushing in with solutions, advice, or forced cheerfulness, often backfires. It can feel invalidating to them, as if you're uncomfortable with their authentic feelings. It also reinforces the codependent belief that you are responsible for their emotional state. Sometimes, the most loving and supportive thing you can do is to simply allow them the space to be in their mood, without trying to rescue them from it. Third, you can learn to ask, instead of assume. Instead of frantically trying to guess what they need, you can offer a simple, low-pressure question. I notice you seem quiet tonight. Is there anything I can do? Or would you prefer some space? This is a beautiful way to show you care while also honoring their autonomy and your separateness. They might grunt and say they just need to be left alone. The lighthouse's job is to say okay and mean it, without taking that need for solitude as a personal rejection. And finally, and most importantly, a lighthouse can only be steady if its own foundation is strong. You must have sources of light and energy in your life that are independent of this person. You must have your own hobbies, your own friends, your own self-care rituals. Your sense of well-being cannot be contingent on their mood. If they are in a stormy phase, that is the perfect time for you to anchor into your own life. Go read your book, call a friend who makes you laugh, go for a walk in nature. By tending to your own light, you ensure that you don't get pulled into their darkness. Imagine your Cancer partner comes home from work, slams a cupboard door, and retreats into stony silence. The small boat reacts with anxiety. What's wrong? Why are you mad at me? Let's talk about it. Chasing them, absorbing their stress, and escalating the tension. The lighthouse observes the storm. They take a breath, remind themselves this is their weather, not mine, and they continue calmly making dinner. After a while, they might say, "It seems like you had a really tough day. I'm here if you want to unload later. For now, I'm just going to relax." You offer a steady, loving, non-reactive presence. Paradoxically, this is what makes them feel safest. Your stability proves that their emotional storms are not destructive, which gives them the implicit permission they need to feel their feelings and let them pass. Take a moment to check in with your own patterns. When someone you care about is in a bad mood, what is your default reaction? Do you tend to absorb their energy, try to fix it, get defensive, or withdraw? What does this reaction tell you about your own emotional boundaries? As you practice becoming the lighthouse, holding your boundaries firm and refusing to be capsized by the emotional tides, you are not just engaging in an act of self-protection. You are doing something far more radical and creative. You are actively laying the foundation for an entirely new kind of relationship. You are inviting the dynamic to evolve out of the murky waters of codependency and into the clear, sunlit harbor of healthy interdependence. This is the ultimate goal. The work is not to create distance, but to create a new, more conscious form of closeness. It's helpful to understand the distinctions. In the shadow Cancerian dynamic, you are often trapped in codependency. The unspoken contract is, I need you to need me so that I can feel secure. It's a relationship between two half-people, each leaning on the other to feel whole, terrified that if one lets go, both will fall. The work you do in setting boundaries is the journey toward independence. It's the declaration of, I don't need you in that unhealthy way. I can stand on my own. This phase can feel like a rebellion, like pulling away, and it's a necessary stage of differentiation. But the goal is not to live forever in a state of rigid independence. The goal is to arrive at interdependence. Interdependence is the conscious and joyful choice of two whole people to partner with one another. The mantra of interdependence is, I am whole and complete on my own, and I choose to share my life with you because you are also whole and complete on your own, and together we can create something even more beautiful. It is a relationship founded on mutual respect, freedom, and choice, not on fear and unmet needs. So, what does this look like in practice, especially within the context of a relationship with a Cancer? In a codependent dynamic, you have one-way caretaking. The Cancer is the designated nurturer, and you are the designated recipient. This creates an unbalanced power dynamic and the potential for all the manipulation we've discussed. In an interdependent relationship, you have mutual nurturing. The Cancer's incredible gift for care is still valued and received as a gift, but the flow of energy goes both ways. You are also empowered to care for them. They learn to become vulnerable and receive comfort. A skill that is often very difficult for the shadow Cancer, who believes their value is only in giving. In codependency, you have emotional dumping. The Cancer uses you as a repository for their unregulated feelings, making you responsible for their emotional state. In interdependence, you have shared vulnerability. Both partners are free to express their feelings, to be sad, to be scared, to be messy. But each person is ultimately responsible for their own emotional weather. You can offer a compassionate ear and a loving embrace, but you are not expected to fix their feelings for them. You are a supportive witness, not a sponge. Let's imagine a weekend. In a codependent relationship with an insecure Cancer, the weekend is a test of loyalty. There's an unspoken expectation that all free time will be spent together, reinforcing the nest. If you want to go out with your own friends, it's perceived as a rejection and met with passive aggression or guilt. The entire weekend becomes a tense negotiation. an effort to manage their need for togetherness. In an interdependent relationship, the weekend is a beautiful balance of me and we. You might spend Saturday morning going for a long hike with your friends. Your Cancer partner might spend it happily puttering in their garden or lost in a creative project. You don't need to be in constant contact. You trust the connection. Then, in the evening, you joyfully reconnect. You are both energized by your individual experiences and excited to share them with each other. Your time together is made richer, not poorer, by your time apart. The shared nest is a loving home base you both choose to return to, not a cage you're afraid to leave. Your individuality is not a threat to the relationship. It is the vital force that keeps the relationship alive and growing. This transition is not easy. When you begin to operate as a whole independent person, the Cancer in your life will likely feel the shift as a terrifying loss of security. They may ramp up their manipulative tactics to try and pull you back into the old, familiar dance. Your job is to lovingly, consistently, and calmly hold the new frame. By refusing to play the codependent game, by modeling what it looks like to be a whole person, you are offering them the most profound gift of all. You are inviting them to find their security not in their control over you, but in their own sovereign soul. You are inviting them to become whole, right alongside you. As you envision this possibility, take a moment to reflect on your own ideal. In your ideal relationship, what does mutual support look like? How do you balance the we of the partnership with the me of your own individual soul's journey? For the last part of our journey together, we are going to shift our perspective. The tide is turning once more. If you are a person with a strong Cancer placement in your chart, if your sun, your moon, or your ascendant rests in the sign of the Crab, this is for you. This is your invitation to come home to yourself. The last several sections may have been difficult to hear. You may have felt defensive, misunderstood, or perhaps a painful sting of recognition. I want you to know that this space is held for you with the deepest compassion, because the path to integrating your shadow is not one of judgment, but of courageous and loving self-awareness. You, more than any other sign, possess a profound gift of intuition. You can feel the unspoken truths in a room. You can sense the emotional currents running beneath the surface of a conversation. The work of your healing and evolution is to be willing to turn that powerful, intuitive lens inward. It is to ask yourself the hard questions and to be brave enough to listen to the quiet and sometimes uncomfortable answers that arise from the deep ocean of your own heart. This is not about self-criticism. It is about untangling your magnificent gift for love from the terrified grip of your fear. So, find a quiet moment. Take a breath that goes all the way down into your belly. I want to offer you a few gentle inquiries for your own soul. There are no right or wrong answers, only your truth. First, I invite you to ask yourself, when I give, what do I truly expect in return? Sit with this one. When you cook that beautiful meal, when you offer that shoulder to cry on, when you spend hours listening to a friend's problems, is there a part of you, a small, hidden part, that is keeping a tally? Is there a subconscious expectation that this act of care will be repaid with loyalty, with appreciation, with affection, or with someone choosing to stay in with you instead of going out? A powerful clue can be found in the feeling of resentment. If you find yourself feeling resentful or unappreciated when your giving is not acknowledged in a specific way, that resentment is a signpost pointing directly to a hidden expectation. It's a sign that your giving was not a pure gift, but a transaction in the emotional bartering system. Second, ask yourself this: how do I react when my help is refused? Someone you love is struggling, and you, with your beautiful nurturing instinct, rush in to help. But they say, "Thank you, but I think I need to figure this one out on my own." What is your immediate gut-level, emotional reaction in that moment? Is it a sense of relief that they feel empowered? Or is it a small, sharp sting of rejection? Do you feel invalidated? Do you feel unnecessary? That feeling is a powerful messenger. It reveals just how much of your own identity and self-worth you have unconsciously fused with your role as the needed one, the caretaker. Here is a third inquiry. Am I trying to support, or am I trying to solve? When a loved one comes to you in distress, your empathy floods your system. But what is the first impulse that follows? Is it to simply be with them in their pain, to create a safe, non-judgmental space for them to feel their feelings? Or is your mind already racing, trying to come up with solutions to fix the problem, to make the bad feeling go away? Often, the rush to fix is not for their benefit, but for ours. Their unresolved pain makes us uncomfortable, and we try to solve their problem to soothe our own vicarious distress. True support allows for the messy process of feeling. Solving is often a subtle form of control. And finally, the deepest question of all: is my love conditional? Be so gentle and honest with yourself here. What would happen if your child, whom you adore, decided to move to the other side of the world for their dream? What if your partner, your rock, discovered a new passion that took up most of their evenings? If the honest thought of your loved ones becoming more independent, more separate, more whole unto themselves, fills you with a cold wave of anxiety, it is a powerful sign that your love has become entangled with your need. It is a sign that your love may be, on some level, conditional upon their proximity, their reliance, and their continued need for the sanctuary of your shell. This is not about making yourself feel guilty. Guilt is the shadow's territory, and we are moving toward the light. This is about seeing the truth with clear, compassionate eyes. Seeing these patterns is the first, most courageous step toward changing them. It is the beginning of the journey to reclaim the pure, unconditional love that is your greatest gift, and to offer it not just to others, but finally to yourself. So, my dear Cancer, I want you to ask your own heart this, and let the answer echo in your own inner ocean. What am I most afraid would happen if the people I love no longer needed me? That question we ended with, what am I most afraid would happen if the people I love no longer needed me, is the key that unlocks the door to your deepest healing. Because the answer, if you follow it down to its root, is almost always the same. I am afraid I will be abandoned. I am afraid I will be left all alone. I am afraid I will not survive. And you must recognize that this is not the rational fear of an adult. An adult knows, on some level, that they can survive a breakup, that they can survive their children growing up. The terror of abandonment, the feeling that it is a life or death situation, is the unfiltered primal terror of a child. And this is the great secret of your work. Dear Cancer, the manipulative, controlling, needy behavior that you sometimes engage in is not coming from your adult self. It is the desperate strategy of a wounded inner child who has hijacked your emotional controls. Cancer, more than any other sign, is the archetype of childhood, of origins of the maternal bond. Your connection to your own inner child is incredibly potent and close to the surface. And when that child within you is carrying unhealed wounds from the past, it will run your life from the shadows. Perhaps in your own childhood, your needs for security and unconditional love were not consistently met. Perhaps you had a parent who was emotionally unavailable, and you learned early on that you had to be the good, quiet, helpful one to receive any affection at all. Perhaps you were even parentified, forced to become the emotional caretaker for your own parents. Learning the lesson that your value was inextricably linked to your ability to care for others, these early experiences create a core belief that gets lodged deep in your psyche. My needs don't matter. To be safe and loved, I must make myself indispensable to others. I must nurture or I will not survive. So now, as an adult, when your partner asks for a night of space, it is not the adult you who hears them. It is that 5-year-old child inside who hears, "I'm leaving you forever." It is that child who panics and sends a barrage of texts. When your friend doesn't take your advice, it is that 8-year-old child who feels invisible and unheard, and who deploys the silent treatment as a punishment. Your shadow patterns are a child's outdated survival strategies being played out in an adult life where they are no longer needed, and are in fact deeply destructive. The path to healing, then, is not to shame or discipline this child. It is to finally give this child the one thing it has always been searching for. You must become the parent to your own inner child. You must turn the full, magnificent, unconditional force of your great mother energy inward. Your capacity to nurture is your greatest gift, and you have been giving it away to everyone but the one person who needs it most. The little one inside of you. How do you begin this sacred work? It starts with listening. When you feel that familiar surge of panic, that desperate neediness, that defensive anger, pause, take a breath, put a hand on your own heart, and recognize, this is not me, the adult. This is my inner child who is feeling terrified right now. Instead of acting out, you turn inward. You can try a simple visualization. Close your eyes and imagine yourself at an age where you felt particularly small or alone. See that little child in your mind's eye. See their face, their clothes, the look in their eyes. And now, see your wise, compassionate adult self walk into the picture. Go to that child, kneel down, and give them the message they have been waiting their entire life to hear. Tell them, I am here now, I am the adult, and I am strong. I will never, ever leave you. You are safe with me. You don't have to do anything or be anyone to earn my love. You are loved unconditionally, just for being you. Breathe that love into them. Let's say you and your partner have a disagreement, and they say they need an hour to cool off. The old pattern would be to panic, but the new way is to recognize the inner child's fear. You sit down for 5 minutes, close your eyes, and do this work. You tell your inner child, I know you're scared he's going to leave forever, but I'm here. I won't abandon you. We are safe. By soothing your own inner world first, you become capable of showing up as your adult self in your relationship, able to respectfully give your partner the space they need. This is the work that leads to true, unshakable security. The security that you have been desperately trying to get from others is, and always has been, an inside job. When you learn to provide your own safety, When you learn to mother your own soul, you no longer need to control anyone. Your claws can finally relax. Your love can finally flow freely, as a true gift, with no strings, no debts, and no fear. Let's deepen this connection. If you could meet your 7-year-old self today, what is the one thing you believe they would most need to hear from you? And what is the one thing they might have to teach you about joy or authenticity? Once you begin the sacred work of reparenting yourself, of providing your own inner child with the safety and love it craves, you will find that the desperate, panicked grip of your fear begins to soften. You are building an internal foundation of security. The next step on your evolutionary journey is to learn how to build a healthy bridge from this new, more secure inner world to the world of your relationships. This bridge is built with the tool that you have perhaps avoided the most. Direct communication, your native language, dear Cancer, is a beautiful one. It is the language of feeling, of intuition, of knowing without words. In an ideal world, all communication would happen heart to heart, a perfect telepathic exchange of needs and emotions. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world with other people who have different wiring, who cannot read your mind, no matter how much they love you. So much of the pain and conflict you experience stems from a core communication mismatch. You rely on the unspoken, and when it fails, you feel betrayed. The path to healthier relationships is the courageous shift from a world of assumption to a world of clear, vulnerable articulation. This pattern of assumption works in two directions, and both are damaging. First, you assume you know what others need. Your empathy is a superpower, but in its shadow, it can be arrogant. You feel someone's distress and you immediately leap to a conclusion about what will fix it. You offer advice they didn't ask for. You do things for them they could do themselves. You smother them with the care that you would want in their situation without ever pausing to ask what they actually need. This is the root of the help that feels controlling and the care that fosters dependency. But the far more painful side of this coin is that you assume others should intuitively know what you need. This is the silent test that you put your loved ones through, day after day. You feel sad, and you retreat into silence, expecting them to notice, to gently coax you out of your shell, and to say the exact right thing. You feel scared and insecure, and you expect them to read the subtle signals and offer the perfect reassurance. When they inevitably fail this impossible psychic test, when they don't notice your mood, or they give you space when you wanted closeness, you don't see it as a simple communication failure. You see it as a failure of their love. It confirms your deepest fear. They don't really see me. They don't really care. This is the wound that festers and leads to passive aggression, guilt trips, and resentment. The healing is to learn to use your words. This is terrifying, I know. To say your needs out loud feels naked, exposed, and vulnerable. It feels like you're risking direct rejection. But it is the only way to have your needs truly met and to build a love based on reality, not on a fantasy of perfect, unspoken attunement. Let's use the example of your partner wanting to go out with friends. The old pattern, based on assumption, is to get quiet and moody, hoping they'll read your mind and stay home. The result is that they either go out feeling guilty or they stay home feeling resentful. The connection is eroded. The new pattern is based on articulation. You've done your inner work. You've recognized that your reaction is your inner child's fear of being left alone. You've soothed that child. Now, you can speak from your adult self. You can take a breath and try a new way. You might say, seeing you get ready to go, I'm feeling a little insecure tonight. The story I am telling myself is that you're going to have more fun with them than you do with me. Notice the language. You are owning your feeling, I feel insecure, and owning your interpretation, the story I'm telling myself. You're not accusing them, you are abandoning me. Then, you make a clear, actionable request. I know it's important for you to see your friends, so you should absolutely go. But would you be willing to just send me a quick sweet text before bed? And could we plan a special date night for just us this weekend? Do you feel the revolutionary difference? You have been honest and vulnerable. You have respected their autonomy. You have taken responsibility for your own emotional reaction. And most importantly, you have given them a clear and easy way to help you feel loved. You have set them up to succeed, not to fail. This is how you build trust. This is how you create real intimacy. An intimacy that is far deeper and more resilient than the fragile hope of being perfectly understood without ever having to speak. It is the brave act of letting your beautiful, tender heart truly be seen. To get in touch with this practice, I want to ask you this. What is one need you have right now? For comfort, for space, for reassurance that you have not spoken aloud to anyone? What is the story you tell yourself about why you can't, or should unask for it directly? The beautiful, courageous work of healing your inner child and learning to articulate your needs is all in service of one great alchemical act, the transformation of fear into trust. This is the ultimate destination of your healing journey. For your entire life, your shadow has been operating from the cold, primal fuel of fear, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being needed, the fear of being unseen. The journey of your soul's evolution is to consciously and deliberately shift your fuel source. It is to learn to run your life on the warm, radiant, and infinitely more powerful energy of trust. Now, this is not a passive, Pollyanna-ish trust. It is not a blind hope that no one will ever leave you or that you will never feel pain again. It is a deep, embodied, and actively cultivated trust in 3 essential pillars. When you build your life on this foundation, the compulsive need to control, manipulate, and cling to others simply melts away, because it is no longer necessary. The first and most important pillar is trust in yourself. This is the bedrock. Through the sacred work of reparenting your inner child, you are teaching yourself, day by day, moment by moment, that you will not abandon you. You are proving to yourself that you have the capacity to sit with your own difficult emotions. You can feel the sharp sting of loneliness, the cold wave of insecurity, the hot flush of anger, and you can hold it all within your own compassionate presence without needing to immediately fix it or make someone else responsible for it. You learn that your emotions are like the weather. They are powerful and real, but they are not permanent. They pass. You are not the storm. You are the vast, deep ocean beneath it, which is always fundamentally okay. This is the source of true security. When you trust that you can handle your own emotional reality, you no longer fear it, and you no longer need to manipulate the world to avoid it. The second pillar is trust in others. For the wounded Cancer, this can feel like the most radical and terrifying leap of faith. It is the conscious choice to believe in the durability of the love that is offered to you. It is trusting that when your partner needs a night of solitude, it is because they need to recharge, not because they are secretly planning to leave you. It is trusting that when your child grows up and builds their own life, their love for you does not disappear. It simply transforms into a new, more mature expression. This trust is not about being naive. It is about choosing to interpret others' actions through a lens of love rather than a lens of suspicion. It is the decision to stop putting your loved ones on trial every day, forcing them to constantly prove their loyalty. You release them from the impossible job of managing your fears. And in doing so, you give them the space to love you freely and authentically. The third pillar is trust in the connection itself. This is a more spiritual trust. It is the belief that a true, heart-centered bond is not the fragile, delicate thing your fear has told you it is. It is a living, resilient energy. A healthy connection is like a deeply rooted tree. It can bend in the winds of disagreement. It can withstand the seasons of distance, and it will not break. You learn that a rupture in a relationship does not have to be the end. With honest communication and mutual care, it can be repaired, and the connection can grow back even stronger. You stop seeing love as a finite resource that you must hoard and protect, and you begin to experience it as a flowing, dynamic current that you get to participate in. Let's imagine your partner receives a wonderful career opportunity that will require them to travel for a week every month. The old, fear-based you would panic. This would trigger every abandonment alarm in your system. You might become sullen, start arguments, or even develop a mysterious illness right before each trip, in a subconscious attempt to prevent the separation. But the new you, operating from this foundation of trust, has a completely different experience. You feel the initial, familiar pang of fear, but instead of letting it take over, you access your new tools. You trust yourself. I know I will feel lonely this week, and that's okay. I know how to comfort myself. I will plan a nice dinner with a friend and finish that book I've been wanting to read. You trust your partner. I know they love me. This is important for their growth, and I support them. We will find beautiful ways to connect while they're gone, and you trust the connection. Our bond is strong enough to handle this. This distance won't break us. It will make our time together even more precious. From this place of trust, you can offer your partner your genuine, wholehearted support, and the relationship deepens as a result. This is the freedom you are working toward. This is the true purpose of your shell. It is not meant to be a hard, brittle fortress to keep the world out. It is meant to be a beautiful internal container built from the strength of your own self-love. A home for your own soul that is so secure, so safe that you can finally open your heart to the world without fear. Let's sit with this expansive vision for a moment. What would your life and your relationships look like if you operated from a core belief that you are fundamentally safe and that connection is resilient, rather than from a core belief that you are always on the verge of being abandoned? And so we arrive at the end of our journey, back at the shore, where we first began, with the cosmic crab digging its home in the sand between the land and the sea. We began with a question. Cancer, caretaking, is it unconditional love, or is it emotional manipulation? And after traveling through the brightest light of the full moon and the deepest shadows of the new moon, I hope you have come to see that the answer is not a simple either-or. The truth of Cancer, like all deep truths, is a paradox. The answer is both and. The nurturing, selfless love of the Great Mother and the possessive, fearful grip of the manipulative shadow are not two different beings. They are two faces of the same beautiful, complex, and deeply human energy. They both spring from the same sacred source, the profound, primal need for a safe emotional home. Think one last time of the crab. It is defined by its two opposing qualities, the soft, vulnerable flesh and the hard, protective shell with its powerful claws. You cannot have one without the other. The evolutionary journey of the Cancerian soul is not to try and amputate its claws, to get rid of its shadow, to pretend it doesn't have a deep capacity for fear and possessiveness. That is an impossible and dishonorable task. The journey is to integrate these two halves, to bring them into conscious, loving relationship with each other. The problem is not the existence of the claws. The problem is when they are wielded unconsciously, driven by the blind panic of an unhealed wound. For those of you who love a Cancer, your work is to understand this wholeness. Your task is not to fix them or to defeat their shadow. It is to use your boundaries, your lighthouse-like stability, and your own unwavering self-love to create a relationship where their light is given every opportunity to shine. When you refuse to engage with the guilt trips, when you do not reward the passive aggression, when you hold your ground in the face of their emotional storms, you are not rejecting them. You are lovingly rejecting a pattern of behavior. You are refusing to dance with their shadow, which is a powerful, nonverbal invitation for their highest self to step onto the dance floor. You can love the whole person, the light and the shadow, while choosing to only engage with the behaviors that honor both of you. And for you, my dear Cancers, your work is to fall in love with your own wholeness. It is to turn and face your own shadow with the same tenderness you would offer a crying child. Thank your fear for trying so hard for so long to protect you in the only ways it knew how. Thank your manipulative patterns for being the outdated survival strategies that got you this far. And then, with the full authority of your wise, healed adult self, you can let them know that you are in charge now. Your shadow becomes your teacher. That familiar flare of jealousy, that needy pang of insecurity is no longer a command to act out. It is a signal, an alarm bell from your inner world that says, attention, the little one inside is feeling scared. And instead of turning outward to control someone, you turn inward to nurture yourself. This is where you will find the true, unshakable security that you have been searching for your entire life. It does not exist in another person's loyalty. It does not exist in a perfectly harmonious nest. It exists in your own capacity to hold your own vulnerability, to mother your own soul, to trust in your own resilience. When you build your home inside of yourself, you can finally love others without needing anything from them. You can offer your care as a pure, radiant gift. Your claws can finally relax, not because the world has become perfectly safe, but because the soft, precious part of you finally feels safe, protected from within by the force of your own love. This is the great beauty and the profound lesson of your sign. Your greatest wound, your exquisite vulnerability to the pain of separation, is the very source of your greatest gift. Your divine capacity for a deep healing and empathetic connection that makes this world a softer place to be. Looking back on our entire journey today, what is the single most important insight you are taking with you? How will this one insight change the way you approach love, either the love you give or the love you receive? And that brings us to the end of our time together today. We've journeyed through the entire celestial sphere of Cancer, from the divine light of the nurturing mother to the painful shadow of the fearful child. The key lesson, I hope, is that the line between love and manipulation is often felt rather than seen, and the path to health for everyone lies in cultivating a deep, unshakable security within oneself. Your task for the week, should you choose to accept it, is to meditate on that final question. What is the one insight you're taking with you? Let it be a gentle guide as you navigate the emotional currents of your relationships. Remember that you are a sovereign being of light, worthy of a love that empowers and capable of a love that is freely given. Trust your intuition, it is the compass of your soul, always pointing you toward your own true north. That's all for today. Keep trusting your intuition, and I'll see you in the next one.